"Save my tribe and I will give you strong children," the Apache woman pleaded with the rancher. The sun was already high in the sky, casting its golden light over the endless stretches of desert that lay beyond the mountains. The wind whispered softly through the cacti and dry shrubs, carrying the scent of sand and sage. In the middle of this vast, unforgiving land, a small Apache village huddled together near a narrow riverbed, their homes built of wood, clay, and woven reeds. Life here was harsh, but the Apache people had survived for generations, learning to read the signs of nature, to hunt, to gather, and to care for one another with a strength that outsiders could hardly understand. Among them was Nayeli, a young Apache woman whose spirit was as fierce as the desert sun, and whose heart was devoted entirely to the well-being of her tribe. Nayeli had always been different. From a young age, she had watched her elders carefully, learning the ways of the land, the patterns of the seasons, and the secrets of survival. She could track animals with the skill of her father, find hidden water sources like her mother, and even speak in a way that could calm angry neighbors or bring a sense of hope to frightened children. But now, her skills were being tested in a way she had never imagined. The village had been facing a series of troubles. The nearby settlers were expanding their lands, cutting through areas that the Apache people had depended on for food and shelter. The river, once full of fish, had become unpredictable, drying in some places while flooding in others. Disease had begun to creep quietly through the village, leaving the elders and children vulnerable. And on top of all this, rumors had reached the village of a wealthy rancher in the nearby town, a man whose influence could sway decisions, protect land, and offer the kind of help that could save them all. Nayeli knew that if the tribe was to survive, she would have to find this man and convince him to help. The journey was not an easy one. Nayeli packed lightly, carrying only the essentials: a small water skin, a few dried meat strips, some cornmeal, and a dagger her father had given her for protection. She left behind her younger siblings, promising her mother and the elders that she would return with help, that the tribe would not be left to face the harsh desert and the threats of outsiders alone. As she walked, the landscape stretched endlessly before her, golden sands shifting under the wind, rocks and cliffs creating shadows that stretched like fingers across the land. Every step was heavy with the weight of responsibility, yet Nayeli moved with determination. She knew that the survival of her people rested on her shoulders, and there was no room for hesitation. After several days of walking, she reached the outskirts of a small town where the rancher, John Mercer, lived. The town was unlike anything she had seen before. Buildings made of timber and stone lined dusty streets, and horses and wagons moved in a steady rhythm. People went about their daily lives, tending to their stores, livestock, and homes, seemingly unaware of the struggles that waited beyond the mountains. Nayeli felt a pang of fear and uncertainty. She was a stranger here, someone who did not belong, yet she carried with her the future of an entire tribe. Finding Mercer's ranch was another challenge. The ranch itself was vast, stretching across open plains and dotted with barns, corrals, and stables filled with horses. Nayeli approached cautiously, her heart pounding. She had heard stories of ranchers being protective of their land and possessions, and she knew she had to choose her words carefully. Summoning every ounce of courage, she called out, and soon a man appeared, tall and broad-shouldered, with suntanned skin and eyes that seemed to measure her instantly. "Who are you?" the man asked, his voice firm but not unkind. "My name is Nayeli," she replied, keeping her voice steady. "I come from the Apache tribe in the mountains. My people are in danger and I need your help." Mercer studied her for a long moment, his eyes searching for signs of deceit. He had dealt with many travelers and petitioners before, some genuine, others not. But there was something different about Nayeli, something in the way she stood, in her calm yet urgent tone, and in the fire that seemed to glow in her eyes. "And what makes you think I can help?" Mercer asked cautiously, folding his arms across his chest. Nayeli took a deep breath. She knew that words alone would not be enough. She needed to convey not just the danger but also the trustworthiness of her plea. Your influence, your land, your knowledge, these can protect my tribe. They are facing hunger, sickness, and attacks from those who do not understand our ways. If you help us, I promise you will see the strength and resilience of our people, our children, and our future. I promise you strong children, children who will carry the courage of their ancestors. Mercer frowned slightly, unsure how to respond. The mention of children and the promise of strength was unusual, even for someone who had grown up in this rough land. But he could sense the honesty behind her words. There was no threat, no demand, only a plea for help born from desperation and hope. For hours they spoke. Nayeli told him about the tribe, about the challenges they faced, and about the importance of unity and protection. She shared stories of her ancestors, of the wisdom passed down through generations, and the ways in which her people survived when all odds were against them. Mercer listened, slowly realizing that this was more than a simple request. It was a call for action, a chance to make a difference. By the time the sun began to set, casting orange and pink hues across the sky, Mercer had made a decision. He would not turn his back on Nayeli or her people, but he also knew that trust had to be earned and he could not act blindly. You must stay here for a while, he said. Prove to me that you are serious, that your people can be trusted. Help around the ranch. Show me your skills, and I will see how I can help your tribe. Nayeli agreed without hesitation. She knew that this was the first step, and every step mattered. She spent the following days learning about the ranch, helping with feeding the horses, mending fences, and even assisting Mercer in negotiations with neighboring towns. Through it all, she remained steadfast in her mission, her eyes always reflecting the urgency and responsibility she carried. As the days turned into weeks, a quiet respect grew between them. Mercer began to see not just the desperation of a tribe, but the intelligence, courage, and resilience of Nayeli herself. She was not simply asking for help. She was teaching him to see the world through the eyes of someone whose life had been shaped by struggle, survival, and love for her people. By the time Part 1 draws to a close, the foundations of a unique partnership were laid. Nayeli's courage had opened a door that many thought impossible, and Mercer's willingness to listen had created a bridge between two worlds. The tribe's future, once uncertain, now had a glimmer of hope. And as night fell over the ranch, with the stars twinkling above the desert and the soft rustle of the wind in the trees, Nayeli looked out into the horizon, knowing that the journey to save her people had only just begun. The mornings at the ranch were different from anything Nayeli had experienced in her village. The air was thick with the smell of hay, horse sweat, and the faint sweetness of wildflowers that grew along the fences. Birds sang in the trees near the barn, and the sun rose slowly over rolling fields that seemed endless. Nayeli had always known the desert, where the sun burned hot and the land was unforgiving, but here, the world felt alive in a different way. Every sound, every movement told a story she had never heard before. Mercer watched her quietly as she worked. At first he had been cautious, unsure of her intentions. Now he saw her skills, her strength, and her intelligence. Nayeli approached every task with care, whether it was feeding the horses, mending fences, or helping to gather the produce from the small garden Mercer had cultivated. She asked questions, learned quickly, and offered ideas that surprised him. Sometimes she suggested ways to conserve water, ways to store food safely, or methods of tracking animals that reminded Mercer of his own hunting days, but in a far more skilled and subtle way. It wasn't just her skills that impressed him, it was her understanding of people. Nayeli could read the emotions of the ranch hands and the townspeople who occasionally visited, sensing tension, kindness, or worry before anyone spoke. She had a way of calming arguments, of offering solutions without demanding them. Mercer began to realize that if she could manage the tribe with this level of skill, perhaps she could truly save her people. Over time, Nayeli shared stories of her tribe with Mercer. She spoke of the elders who remembered the land before settlers arrived, of children learning to run swiftly across rocky terrain, and of hunters who could track a rabbit through miles of desert without leaving a trace. She described the rituals and traditions that shaped their community, the respect they held for every living thing, and the lessons passed down from parent to child. Mercer listened carefully, absorbing every detail. He could see now that helping this tribe would not only be an act of kindness, but also a lesson in resilience and wisdom that he had never encountered in his life. But trust was not built in a day. Nayeli understood that words were not enough. She had to show him through actions. She worked side by side with the ranch hands, learning the routines of ranch life and contributing her own knowledge. She repaired broken fences with techniques her father had taught her, built temporary shelters to protect livestock during storms, and even helped manage the horses, understanding their moods and needs in ways that Mercer found remarkable. Each day, Mercer's respect for her grew. Meanwhile, life at the ranch was not without its challenges. The nearby landowners were wary of anyone stepping into their territories, and tensions occasionally flared. Mercer had to negotiate carefully, ensuring that his ranch remained protected while considering the fragile state of the Apache tribe. Nayeli observed quietly during these negotiations, learning not only the language and customs of the settlers, but also their ways of thinking. She noticed the small gestures, the pauses in speech, and the ways people revealed their intentions without saying a word. This knowledge became another tool in her mission to safeguard her tribe. As the days passed, Nayeli began to teach Mercer about the desert, about the land that the tribe called home. She spoke of hidden springs, the patterns of animals, and the signs of approaching storms. Mercer found himself amazed by her observations. He realized that, while he had lived in these lands for decades, Nayeli's understanding of the natural world was far deeper and more precise than his own. She taught him to look at the world through a different lens, to notice the small details that often held the key to survival. One evening, after a long day of work, Mercer and Nayeli sat outside the barn, watching the sky turn shades of orange and purple as the sun set. Nayeli spoke quietly, her voice carrying a mix of hope and worry. The tribe is waiting for help. They are strong, but without guidance and protection, many will suffer. I came to you because I believe you can help, not because I expect you to. I only ask that you see the truth in our need. Mercer nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. He knew that she carried not only the weight of her people's survival, but also the responsibility of representing a culture and history that had endured hardships for generations. Mercer decided to test the partnership further. He began involving Nayeli in decisions about the ranch that required strategy, negotiation, and leadership. He sought her advice on how to handle disputes, how to manage resources, and how to prepare for unexpected challenges. Nayeli offered insights that were often unconventional but effective. She suggested ways to rotate grazing areas to prevent overuse, methods to store water for long periods, and techniques to create natural barriers that could protect the ranch without causing harm to anyone. Mercer was impressed by her foresight and adaptability. During this time, Nayeli also began to form relationships with the ranch hands. Some were skeptical at first, unsure of this outsider who had appeared so suddenly in their routine lives. But Nayeli's humility, kindness, and competence won them over. She listened to their stories, helped with their work, and shared small pieces of knowledge from her own culture. The hands began to respect her not because of her position or promises, but because of her integrity and skill. Mercer noticed these connections and realized that Nayeli's influence was spreading, building a network of trust and cooperation that could extend beyond the ranch. Yet despite these successes, Nayeli could not forget the urgency of her mission. Every night as she lay under the stars, she thought of her village, the elders and the children waiting for her return. She knew that time was precious, that every delay could bring more danger. Mercer, too, began to feel the weight of responsibility. He had seen firsthand the determination and intelligence of Nayeli, and he understood that helping her tribe was not a simple task. It required commitment, planning, and courage. One day, a letter arrived from a neighboring town. It contained news that unsettled both Nayeli and Mercer. A group of settlers planned to expand further into the land near Nayeli's village, and the tribe could be forced into a corner. Nayeli's heart sank, but she quickly pushed aside despair. She turned to Mercer with determination. "We cannot wait any longer. My people need guidance now, and they need someone who understands both their world and yours. I know you can help, but we must act carefully and quickly." Mercer agreed, realizing that words and preparation alone were not enough. He began to plan concrete steps to protect the tribe. They discussed strategies for negotiation, ways to use the law to safeguard land, and methods to provide resources such as food, tools, and shelter. Nayeli contributed her knowledge of the terrain, secret trails, and natural resources that could support the tribe. Together, they created a plan that balanced caution with action, ensuring that every move would increase the tribe's chances of survival while minimizing conflict. As the weeks passed, the bond between Nayeli and Mercer grew stronger. It was not a bond of friendship alone, but one of mutual respect, trust, and shared purpose. Mercer came to admire Nayeli's courage, intelligence, and unwavering dedication to her people. Nayeli, in turn, respected Mercer's willingness to listen, to learn, and to act on her advice. Each day brought new challenges, but also new opportunities to learn from one another, to bridge the gap between two worlds, and to prepare for the trials that lay ahead. By the end of Part 2, the foundations of a partnership were solid. Nayeli had proven her skills, her intelligence, and her sincerity. Mercer had opened his mind and his resources to her cause. Together, they had begun the careful work of preparing to protect the tribe, combining knowledge, strategy, and courage. The journey was far from over, but the first steps toward trust, collaboration, and hope had been taken. As the sun set over the ranch once more, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Nayeli looked out at the horizon, her heart filled with determination. She knew the challenges ahead would be great, but with trust, preparation, and courage, there was a chance to save her people and secure a future for the generations to come. The days at the ranch grew busier as Mercer and Nayeli worked together to prepare for the challenges. Ahead, the sun rose early each morning, casting long shadows across the fields, and the air was alive with the sounds of animals, creaking wood, and the soft whisper of the wind. Every task they undertook had a purpose beyond the ranch itself. Each action was part of a larger plan to protect Nayeli's tribe. Mercer had come to trust her judgment completely, relying on her knowledge of the land, her understanding of people, and her insight into survival. Nayeli, in turn, respected Mercer's experience and his ability to act decisively. Together, they were beginning to form a partnership that would test both their strengths and their courage. The first step in their plan was to ensure that the tribe had enough food and supplies to survive the coming months. Nayeli had observed that the rivers were unpredictable, and the land around the village was becoming harder to cultivate. She suggested storing dried meats, grains, and other non-perishable foods that could sustain the tribe even in difficult times. Mercer used his connections in nearby towns to acquire these supplies discreetly, ensuring that the tribe's needs could be met without drawing unwanted attention. They worked together to organize storage areas on the ranch and planned a method to transport the supplies safely to the village. While preparing food and resources, Naomi also focused on teaching her people essential survival skills. She knew that strength was not only measured in the body, but in knowledge and preparation. She shared techniques for finding water in hidden places, for creating shelters that could withstand storms, and for using the natural environment to protect themselves from danger. Mercer watched with admiration as Naomi demonstrated these skills to the ranch hands, showing patience, clarity, and confidence. Her teachings were simple but effective, emphasizing practicality and foresight, and they quickly gained the respect of everyone around her. Another critical part of the plan was building trust and understanding between different communities. Mercer had noticed that some neighboring settlers were wary of the Apache tribe, fearing conflict or misunderstanding. Naomi encouraged him to approach these towns with diplomacy rather than force, to explain the tribe's needs and their peaceful intentions. Mercer, who had often relied on negotiation in his own life, followed her advice carefully. Together, they visited local leaders, shared stories of the tribe's history, and demonstrated the value of cooperation. Slowly, attitudes began to shift. People who had once been suspicious began to see the tribe not as a threat, but as a community striving to survive, led by a brave and capable woman. While they were busy preparing for the future, Naomi and Mercer faced smaller challenges that tested their patience and resilience. One morning, a sudden storm swept across the ranch, tearing through fences and flooding fields. The horses panicked, and the barns were at risk of damage. Naomi remained calm, directing the ranch hands to secure animals and protect equipment, while Mercer helped reinforce shelters and redirect water flow. Together, they managed to minimize the damage, but the storm was a reminder that nature could be unpredictable and dangerous. Naomi used the experience to teach lessons about adaptability and quick thinking, ensuring that the tribe would be ready for similar situations when they received the supplies. Communication between the ranch and the village became a priority. Naomi knew that timing was crucial and that the tribe needed clear instructions for receiving help. She organized a system of messengers and signals, ensuring that her people could respond quickly and efficiently to any situation. She trained a few trusted members of the tribe to carry messages discreetly, teaching them routes that avoided potential dangers and ways to remain unnoticed if necessary. Mercer provided the tools and resources to support these efforts, creating a network that allowed information to travel safely and reliably between the ranch and the village. As the days turned into weeks, a deeper understanding began to develop between Naomi and Mercer. Their conversations went beyond strategy and logistics. They spoke of values, dreams, and the importance of preserving culture and heritage. Naomi shared stories of her ancestors, of how they had survived countless hardships and adapted to changing circumstances without losing their identity. Mercer shared his own experiences growing up in the frontier, the challenges of managing land, and the lessons he had learned about fairness, responsibility, and community. In these exchanges, a bond formed that went beyond respect. It was a shared commitment to something larger than themselves, a dedication to protecting life and nurturing hope. In preparation for potential threats, they also considered defensive measures. Naomi explained how her people had historically used the terrain to their advantage, creating natural barriers and using hidden paths for safe movement. Mercer adapted these ideas to the ranch, reinforcing boundaries, planning escape routes, and preparing safe storage for essential resources. The measures were designed not for aggression, but for protection, ensuring that the tribe could survive without causing harm to others. Each decision was deliberate, reflecting both caution and care, and demonstrating a thoughtful approach to leadership and survival. One afternoon, as they were inspecting the final storage areas for supplies, Naomi paused and looked out over the fields. The horizon stretched endlessly, and in that moment she felt a mixture of hope and responsibility. "Every step we take matters," she said quietly. "If we do this right, the tribe will have a chance to thrive. If we fail, even for a little, they could lose everything." Mercer nodded, understanding the weight of her words. He had faced difficult situations before, but none had carried the responsibility of an entire community. He realized that helping the tribe required more than planning. It required courage, patience, and unwavering determination. As preparations continued, the first signs of success began to appear. The ranch hands who had once been skeptical grew confident in Naomi's guidance. Local townspeople started to recognize her dedication and skill, and some even offered support in small but meaningful ways, such as extra food, tools, or advice on managing resources. The tribe's future, once uncertain, began to look more secure. Every contribution, every action, added to a growing foundation of hope and resilience. During this time, Naomi also began teaching Mercer about the values and traditions of her people. She explained the importance of community, respect for nature, and the strength that comes from unity and cooperation. Mercer listened carefully, realizing that this knowledge was not only valuable for helping the tribe, but also for understanding the deeper purpose behind Naomi's actions. Her guidance showed him that true strength was not measured by wealth or power, but by courage, wisdom, and the ability to care for others. As the plan neared completion, a sense of urgency returned. Rumors reached them that neighboring settlers were planning further expansions, which could threaten the tribe's safety. Naomi and Mercer knew that timing was crucial. The supplies needed to reach the village before winter, the messages had to be delivered efficiently, and the tribe needed to be prepared to respond to any challenges. They reviewed every detail, double-checking routes, schedules, and resources. Nothing was left to chance, and every decision reflected careful thought and experience. Finally, the day came to put the plan into action. Naomi organized her people, explaining the steps they needed to follow to receive the supplies and prepare for the months ahead. She moved with confidence, her voice steady, her instructions clear. Mercer provided guidance, helped with logistics, and ensured that everything ran smoothly. The cooperation between the ranch and the tribe worked like a well-oiled machine, a testament to careful planning, trust, and shared purpose. By the end of Part 3, the groundwork for the tribe's protection had been laid. Supplies were ready, defensive measures were in place, communication systems were organized, and both communities were prepared to respond to challenges. Naomi and Mercer had demonstrated the power of collaboration, showing that courage, intelligence, and careful planning could overcome even the most difficult obstacles. The stage was set for the next chapter, a moment when their preparations would be tested and the true resilience of the tribe would be revealed. As night fell over the ranch, the stars appeared in the clear sky, reflecting the hope and determination that now filled both Naomi and Mercer. They had come a long way since the first meeting at the ranch, building trust, understanding, and a plan that could save an entire community. But the journey was far from over. Ahead lay the tests that would challenge their strength, their courage, and their unity. Naomi felt a quiet determination as she looked toward the horizon. The tribe's survival depended on every decision, every action, and every moment of careful planning. And she was ready to face whatever came next. The air was unusually still that morning, as if the desert itself held its breath. Naomi had risen early, her eyes scanning the horizon from the small hill near the ranch. She could see the first light of dawn brushing over the distant mountains, casting long shadows across the plains. Today was important, not just another day of preparation, but a test of everything she and Mercer had worked toward. Every supply, every plan, and every lesson had led to this moment. She felt a mixture of anticipation and quiet worry, knowing that challenges could arise at any moment. Mercer was already awake, walking among the barns and corrals to check the horses and cattle. His experience told him that danger could appear when least expected, and he moved with calm efficiency, inspecting gates, fences, and water supplies. Nayeli joined him, her steps deliberate and confident. Together, they reviewed their plan one final time, going over routes for the supplies, signaling systems, and methods for keeping the tribe safe if something went wrong. Their partnership had grown stronger over the weeks, and each relied on the other's knowledge and intuition. By mid-morning, the first signs of trouble appeared. A group of travelers approached the ranch from a distant ridge. Nayeli's sharp eyes noticed the unfamiliar movements, the way they rode in a slightly disorganized line. Mercer frowned, stepping forward to get a better view. They were strangers, but Nayeli's instincts told her to be cautious. She motioned to Mercer to prepare for possible interaction, but not confrontation. The tribe's safety depended on restraint as much as strength. As the group came closer, it became clear that they were not hostile settlers, but a band of opportunists looking for easy gains. These were not men with the law behind them, but those willing to exploit others for personal benefit. Nayeli's heart raced as she realized that her people could be in danger if these men found the village first. Mercer immediately understood the urgency and quickly organized a small team to intercept the travelers, ensuring they could be monitored without provoking conflict. Nayeli guided the team, her knowledge of hidden paths and natural cover proving invaluable. The confrontation was tense but carefully managed. Nayeli and Mercer used their combined knowledge to create a safe space for negotiation, showing the travelers that they would not be intimidated, but also that aggression would not be tolerated. Through careful words and clear intentions, they managed to defuse the situation. The travelers were persuaded to leave without harming the village or the ranch. Mercer watched Nayeli with admiration, realizing once again that her courage and intelligence were as vital as any physical strength or resource. With the immediate threat handled, Nayeli focused on the next critical step, ensuring the tribe could safely receive the supplies. She organized a small group of her people, teaching them the secret paths and signaling methods she had prepared. She emphasized caution, instructing them to move quietly and observe any signs of danger. The children and elders of the tribe were kept at a secure location, away from potential threats, while the able-bodied adults and trained messengers carried out the task. Every detail had been planned carefully, and Nayeli's confidence inspired those around her. As they moved supplies through the desert, small challenges appeared. A sudden sandstorm swept across the plains, reducing visibility and making travel difficult. Nayeli remained calm, guiding the group to natural shelters she had identified earlier. She reminded them to stay together, conserve their energy, and trust their training. Mercer, watching from a distance, was impressed by her ability to maintain calm and control under pressure. Her leadership ensured that not a single supply was lost, and that the group remained safe despite the harsh conditions. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Mercer coordinated additional measures to protect the property and resources. He reinforced fences, secured tools and equipment, and made sure the horses were calm and fed. He also maintained communication with Nayeli's group, providing guidance and support as needed. The coordination between ranch and tribe was seamless, reflecting weeks of careful planning and trust. Every action, no matter how small, contributed to the success of the mission. By afternoon, the supplies were successfully delivered to the village. Nayeli oversaw the distribution, making sure that everyone received what they needed while maintaining order and fairness. She emphasized that the strength of the tribe came not only from resources, but from unity, cooperation, and mutual support. The elders nodded in approval, recognizing the skill and care she had taken to ensure everyone's safety. The children, curious and excited, helped carry lighter items and learned important lessons about responsibility and teamwork. Despite the relief, Nayeli and Mercer knew that the crisis was not entirely over. The opportunists could return, and the surrounding area remained unpredictable. Nayeli called a council meeting with the tribe, discussing the importance of vigilance, preparedness, and using the knowledge they had gained from her guidance. She taught them to observe their surroundings carefully, to anticipate possible dangers, and to respond calmly but decisively. Mercer attended as well, offering advice and reinforcing the lessons she provided, showing the tribe that both their worlds could work together for protection and survival. That evening, as the sun dipped below the mountains, the tribe celebrated quietly. It was not a celebration of victory, but a recognition of courage, resilience, and unity. Nayeli looked around at the faces of her people, children, elders, and hunters alike, and felt a deep sense of pride. They had faced uncertainty and potential danger, yet they had emerged safe, guided by planning, intelligence, and mutual support. Mercer stood beside her, quietly acknowledging the success without taking credit. This was the result of collaboration, trust, and careful action. As night fell, Nayeli walked along the edge of the village, reflecting on the day's events. The stars twinkled above, their light mirrored in the river below. She thought of the challenges yet to come, knowing that the survival of the tribe would always require vigilance and adaptability. But she also felt a sense of hope that had not existed before. With Mercer's help, the knowledge she had shared, and the courage of her people, there was a real chance for a brighter future. Mercer, too, took a moment to reflect. He had always believed in self-reliance and hard work, but the experience of working with Nayeli had taught him new lessons. Strength was not only about resources or force. It was about wisdom, cooperation, and courage in the face of uncertainty. He felt honored to be part of the effort, knowing that his actions had a tangible impact on the lives of the tribe and the legacy of their culture. The night was calm, but both Nayeli and Mercer understood that challenges would continue. Other settlers might still encroach on the land, natural disasters could strike, and unforeseen dangers could appear. Yet, for the first time in many weeks, there was a sense of control, a feeling that they had prepared as best they could. The tribe was stronger, more informed, and more united than ever before. The lessons of the day, about planning, courage, and cooperation, would remain with them long into the future. As they parted ways for the night, Nayeli returned to her small tent near the river, sitting quietly by a fire as the soft crackle of flames filled the air. She thought of the children, of the elders who had survived so much, and of the lessons that would continue to guide her people. Mercer remained near the barn, keeping watch over the ranch, yet he too felt a quiet satisfaction. Together they had weathered a storm, both literal and figurative, and had proven that careful preparation, courage, and collaboration could overcome uncertainty. By the end of Part 4, the tribe had not only survived a direct threat, but had learned valuable lessons about unity, strategy, and resilience. Nayeli had proven herself as a capable leader, Mercer had become a trusted ally, and the foundation for long-term safety and prosperity had been firmly established. Yet, the story was far from over. Challenges still loomed on the horizon, and the coming days would test their strength, resourcefulness, and ability to work together in ways that would define the future of the tribe. The stars shone brightly above the desert, casting a gentle light over the village and ranch. It was a moment of calm, reflection, and hope. Nayeli felt the weight of responsibility, but she also felt the power of preparation, leadership, and trust. She knew that the journey ahead would demand courage, wisdom, and resilience, yet she was ready. The tribe had been saved from immediate danger, but their path toward a secure and thriving future was only beginning.